The shameless school bully yanked the intern teacher into his arms, his face dangerously close to hers, playfully running his fingers through her hair. The teacher struggled to get up, only to be pulled back down again. Meanwhile, the students laughed and took pictures, twisting the story to claim that the teacher was the one who insisted on sitting on the student's lap. This tyrannical bully, named Su Gang, was the most notorious force in the school, feared by all. Backed by a wealthy and influential family, he wreaked havoc without consequence. He would force his classmates into violent games, strangling them unconscious only to revive them and start the torment all over again. In one of his sadistic games, a student was only allowed to play scissors and rock paper scissors. Every loss meant a slap across the face, and the game's progress was broadcasted throughout the entire school. The sound of those slaps, paired with Su Gang's devilish laughter, echoed endlessly in every student's mind. Even the teachers who overheard didn't dare speak up. But Su Gang's cruelty didn't stop with his peers. He targeted their families too. He and his gang cornered one student's grandmother, dumping her entire tray of sushi on the ground, sticking cigarette butts into it, and forcing the elderly woman to eat it. What was left, they made the boy pick up from the ground and eat it all. Everyone else could only seethe in silence, living their days in a hell of fear and oppression. That was until the day a new intern teacher arrived at the school. So Seaman appeared to be a sweet, gentle figure, always smiling and nodding politely to everyone. But what no one knew was that she was a former boxing champion, banned from the sport after throwing a match to pay off her father's debts. Desperate to keep a low profile and secure her teaching position, she kept her real identity hidden, even enduring harassment from her superiors without complaint. In private, she would secretly release her anger in the bathroom. Her colleagues had warned her to stay away from one person, Han Su Gang. Anything involving Su Gang was to be ignored at all costs. At first, she didn't understand why both teachers and students were so terrified of him. One day, she accidentally discovered Han Su Gang suffocating a classmate with a plastic bag while brutally beating and kicking him. She wanted to intervene, but another student held her back. As the bully prepared to land a brutal kick to the boy's face, the terrified student froze, unable to move, just as Su Gang lunged forward with all his might. Seaman appeared out of nowhere, pretending to be on her phone. She had timed it perfectly. She swung her arm high and slammed it into his thigh, sending the bully crashing to the ground. Then, she faked an injury herself, claiming she had accidentally been knocked down while passing by. Seizing the moment, she scolded the students for roughhousing, pulling the plastic bag off the boy's head. It was then she recognized him as one of her own students. Oh, Min-suk. She gave Min-suk a stern lecture and sent him back to class. But in that moment, she caught a glimpse of something terrifying in Su Gang's eyes. She realized then that he was someone truly dangerous, someone not to be underestimated. The next day, Min-suk approached her on his own. He confessed that he had sought help from numerous teachers, but none dared to intervene, fearing the power and influence of the bully's family. He had even reported it to the police, but they always dismissed it due to insufficient evidence. He was at his wit's end, breaking down in tears as he expressed his desperation, saying he just wanted to survive. Seeing the broken boy in front of her, Seaman was torn. She wanted to help him, but she knew she was in no position to do so. She was barely hanging on herself. After all, if the full-time teachers couldn't do anything, what could an intern like her possibly achieve? She tried to convince herself to just turn a blind eye, but the thought gnawed at her. After a long internal struggle, she finally mustered the courage to write an anonymous report to the education department. But the very next day, that report had spread like wildfire throughout the school, throwing everyone into a state of panic. As expected, Su Gang's powerful mother arrived at the school in a fury. She stormed into the office, demanding to know who had written the complaint, even going as far as physically confronting the head teacher and principal. Everyone was too terrified to even breathe loudly. With the situation spiraling out of control, Seaman dropped to her knees in front of everyone, frantically apologizing. But the woman, seething with anger, humiliated her, jabbing her finger into Seaman's forehead as she shouted insults, demanding that the principal fire her on the spot. Seaman, utterly powerless, could only beg for forgiveness. Outside the office, Su Gang stood with Min-suk, watching the scene unfold. Feeling more invincible than ever, Su Gang told Min-suk that he would never escape his grasp. From that day on, Seaman became a new target on Su Gang's radar. Su Gang specifically sought out the principal, convincing him not to fire Seaman. It wouldn't be any fun if she were gone, he sneered. That night, Seamin sat in the supermarket, worried about the looming threat of losing her job, completely unaware that a pair of sinister eyes were watching her from outside. Su-gang, accompanied by his lackeys, had tracked her down. As soon as they barged in, he pulled Seamin into his arms, spewing vile, obscene words, promising that if she obeyed him, she could secure her position. Seamin struggled to suppress the burning anger inside her. She wanted to walk away, but they blocked her path, escalating the situation by threatening her with compromising photos.
나대지 마라. 두 번은 안 봐준다.
Just as she stumbled out, dazed and distraught, another man bumped into her. Instead of apologizing, he grabbed her by the head and unleashed a torrent of verbal abuse. Her visible annoyance only seemed to provoke him further, making him even more aggressive. But Seamin had reached her breaking point. She reflected on how all her tolerance had only emboldened these bad people, and this man's final insult was the last straw. As he moved to strike her, she calmly stepped back, then swiftly raised her leg and slammed her shoe into his face. In that moment, her fighting spirit awakened. She decided she would no longer compromise. These bullies needed to be punished. Meanwhile, Su-gang, oblivious to the danger heading his way, was strutting around the basketball court, flaunting his arrogance. This was all the motivation Seamin needed. She donned a cat mask. Boxing champion Seamin was back. With lightning speed, she charged forward and delivered a powerful kick to Su-gang's chest. The rush of finally fighting back was exhilarating. Su-gang, stunned, demanded to know who she was, but Seamin wasn't interested in talking. She landed 2 more punches to his head, leaving him dazed and disoriented. Su-gang's lackeys were in shock. They had never seen their leader in such a pathetic state. Enraged, Su-gang tried to tear off her mask to see who she was, but Seamin was faster. She grabbed his leg, flipped him over, and with a brutal twist, broke it. His eyes filled with fury, but just as he tried to strike again, Seamin was quicker, delivering a crushing blow. There was no applause from the crowd, but everyone watching silently cheered inside. It wasn't until the police arrived that Su-gang's life was spared. Barely. The exhilarating revenge made Seamin burst into laughter, a release of all the pent-up frustration. But this moment was witnessed by little Fatty, a student from her class who had also been a victim of the school's bullying. He couldn't believe that this cool, fearless person was actually his teacher. The next day, the news of Su-gang's beating spread like wildfire throughout the school, sparking whispers even among the teachers. Although they didn't know who the masked cat person was, their barely concealed smiles betrayed the joy they felt inside. Seamin played dumb, joining in the gossip with everyone else, but inside, she was elated. The students, long oppressed by Su-gang, were especially thrilled. They started drawing cat images everywhere, even on Su-gang's desk.
누구 짓이냐?
For the first time, the homeroom teacher entered the classroom and firmly told Su-gang to follow the class rules. This infuriated Su-gang, who stormed off with his lackeys, venting his rage by racing cars. But even that wasn't enough to calm him down, so he took out his anger on his own crew. One of them suggested a more extreme form of revenge, calling out Minsuk for a twisted game. They stripped Minsuk of his clothes, covered him in humiliating words, and forced a plastic bag over his head, ordering him to climb down from the rooftop to buy fried chicken. Terrified, Minsuk had no choice but to comply, running to the chicken shop as fast as he could. Passers-by, seeing him, mistook him for a deranged person. Coincidentally, little Fatty was working at the chicken shop and witnessed the whole scene. He rushed to find Seamin, begging her to help Minsuk. Before she left, he thoughtfully handed her his own clothes, reminding her not to reveal her identity no matter what.
선생님이 이거 쓰고 한순간 깨는 거 봤어요. 그날 경찰 부른 것도 저고 학교에 고양이 탈 소문 낸 것도 저예요. 도와주세요, 선생님.
This act only strengthened Seamin's resolve. Seamin soon found Minsuk, carefully picking up his discarded clothes. When Su-gang saw the masked figure, his anger flared. He grabbed a billiard ball and hurled it at her, but Seamin dodged just in time. Taking advantage of a moment when she was distracted, Su-gang lunged at her, slamming her onto a table. He began to wildly grab anything he could and throw it at her, his rage blinding him. But despite his fury, Su-gang was still just a bully. Seamin saw her chance, leaping up and delivering a powerful flying kick. The impact was so severe that it left Soo-gang coughing up blood. At that moment, Min-suk returned, but instead of running away, he held a knife. Aiming it at Soo-gang, in a split second, she kicked Soo-gang, causing the knife to accidentally cut her own arm. Everyone around was stunned, frozen in shock. Min-suk collapsed to the ground, writhing in emotional agony. Years of bullying had pushed him to the brink, and he screamed at Soo-gang, telling him to die. But even then, Soo-gang showed no remorse, instead seeing an opportunity to discover the cat person's true identity. The next day, Soo-gang made a big show of having all the boys in the school strip off their shirts so he could check their arms for injuries. He was convinced that the cat person was a man, but after an extensive search, he found no trace of his mysterious opponent. Just then, a hoverboard almost collided with Si-min. She dodged it with impressive agility, which didn't escape Soo-gang's notice. What caught his attention even more was that she instinctively clutched her arm, confirming his suspicions.
찾았다. 고양이. 형.
Panic surged through Si-min as she tried to play dumb, but Soo-gang quickly grabbed her arm. It was then he realized that she hadn't been trying to save him that night, but had been afraid for the safety of the student. Min-suk. Si-min tried to escape, but Soo-gang pinned her arm down on the table. He then forced a plastic bag over her head, making her experience the suffocating terror he had inflicted on others. But Soo-gang had an even more twisted idea. He wanted to challenge Si-min to a fight in the boxing ring, planning to kill her in a fair match. He threatened that if she refused, he would hand over the video of Min-suk stabbing him to the police. Si-min tried to talk some sense into him, but how could a demon like him ever change? Meanwhile, Si-min received word that she had been placed on the shortlist for a full-time teaching position. However, she knew that if her identity as the cat person was revealed, no school would ever hire a teacher who fought students. As Si-min wrestled with her decision, Min-suk stood on the edge of the rooftop. Unable to cope any longer, he had reached his breaking point, believing no one could save him. Seeing Min-suk on the brink of despair, Si-min rushed to him, hugging him tightly. In that moment, her resolve solidified. She had to step into the ring and defeat Soo-gang herself. When the school's anniversary event arrived, the ultimate showdown became the center of attention. Students bought masks to cheer on the cat person. Si-min arrived as promised, and the crowd erupted in support of the masked fighter. Soo-gang, who had spent the last 10 days intensifying his training, took immediate advantage of Si-min's injured arm. He unleashed a relentless assault, toying with her as if she were nothing more than a plaything. During the fight, her hair came undone, revealing her identity to the stunned crowd. They were shocked to discover that the person they idolized was actually a woman. Soo-gang grabbed Si-min, punching her repeatedly in the face, threatening to expose her true identity to everyone. He then slammed her hard to the ground, but seeing Min-suk trembling on the sidelines reignited the fire within Si-min.
나 포기 안 해.
With a sudden burst of strength, she executed a leg sweep, bringing Soo-gang down. Instead of charging at him directly, she ran in the opposite direction, using the momentum to perform her signature flying spin kick. She then grabbed a nearby railing and swung around, landing another powerful kick.
내가 넣고 꿀린다. 이 애들 앞에서 처절하게.
At that moment, Si-min slowly removed her mask, deciding she no longer wanted to hide who she was. To hell with the job. To hell with being a proper teacher. The students and teachers were shocked, and even Min-suk stood frozen in disbelief. But beneath the shock, there was admiration and respect. Even Soo-gang's own lackeys couldn't help but start rooting for Si-min. But the real battle was just beginning. As Soo-gang was being pummeled, the principal panicked and ordered Si-min to stop. But Soo-gang wasn't ready to back down. He was determined to kill Si-min, no matter what. Bring it on, let's see who falls first, she challenged. Sugang was quickly losing the fight, but the principal stepped in, trying to defuse the situation. Seizing the moment while Seamin was distracted, Sugang landed a heavy blow on her. However, this only reignited her fighting spirit, bringing her back into the mindset of the ring. Pushed to her limit, Seamin unleashed her signature move, one she had mastered over years of training. Watching his teacher fight so fiercely on his behalf brought tears to Min-suk's eyes. With one final burst of power, Seamin performed a double kick, using the powerful recoil to send Sugang flying off the stage. He landed directly in front of Min-suk. Brought to his knees, Seamin demanded that he apologize to Min-suk, but Sugang, still defiant, refused.
네 사과 따윈 필요 없어. 넌 이미 모두에게 졌으니까. 지옥에나 가라.
At that moment, consumed by humiliation, Sugang grabbed a nearby signboard and charged at Seamin, but this time, she was ready. With a decisive blow, she knocked him down for good. Sugang lay on the ground, completely defeated, a sight that brought immense satisfaction to everyone watching. In the end, Seamin walked away with a sense of purpose, her actions speaking louder than words. She showed everyone that the way to defeat bullying wasn't by being meek or submissive, but by standing up and fighting back. Min-suk went to the police again, this time fully exposing all of Sugang's dirty deeds. But this time, it was different. Sugang's own lackeys came forward, providing all the evidence needed to take him down. Having repeated grades twice, Sugang was now legally an adult, and the police took him into custody to face the consequences he deserved. He had become a pariah, avoided by all. Seamin resigned from her position and applied to teach at a new school. She wasn't leaving the world of education. She knew there were many more bullies like Sugang out there who needed someone like her to put out their fire.